OpenAI has firmly rejected Elon Musk's $97.4 billion takeover bid. The company's board chair, Brett Taylor, stated that OpenAI is not for sale, dismissing Musk's attempt as a disruption to competition. This comes amidst an ongoing lawsuit filed by Musk against OpenAI and its CEO, Sam Altman, alleging corporate misconduct related to the company's transition towards a for-profit model. Musk, a co-founder of OpenAI, initially aimed to keep the company as a non-profit, focused on the ethical development of artificial general intelligence. The rejected bid also included an offer from Musk to withdraw it if OpenAI ceased its for-profit transition. Taylor, who previously navigated Musk's acquisition attempt of Twitter, emphasized that any reorganization would strengthen OpenAI's mission to ensure AGI benefits all of humanity. The legal battle between Musk and OpenAI is expected to continue, adding further complexity to the future of AI development. Former President Donald Trump has announced plans to impose 25% tariffs on auto imports, semiconductors, and pharmaceuticals entering the United States, potentially taking effect as early as April 2nd. This move follows previous tariffs on goods from China and on steel and aluminum imports. Trump stated intentions to potentially increase these rates further over time, aiming to incentivize companies to relocate manufacturing to America. The announcement comes amidst an investigation into other nations' trade policies. Experts warn these tariffs could significantly impact consumers through higher prices, particularly on automobiles, with imported vehicles accounting for nearly half of U.S. sales. The details regarding specific countries and trade agreements remain unclear. While U.S. companies lead in semiconductor design, chip manufacturing is largely outsourced to Asia. These tariffs could disproportionately affect Asian chip giants like TSMC, Samsung, and SK Hynix, potentially accelerating their expansion into the U.S. Elon Musk and Donald Trump are advocating for significant cuts to the federal government, citing instances of waste and fraud. During a recent meeting, both men highlighted alleged abuses of taxpayer money, with Trump mentioning a federal worker who supposedly walked away with $30 million. Musk echoed these concerns, claiming the government is rife with individuals getting wealthy at the taxpayer's expense. However, the veracity of these claims is under scrutiny. Musk himself admitted that some of his statements may be incorrect. One example is his assertion that the U.S. sent $50 million to Gaza for condoms, a claim for which there is no evidence. Despite the lack of substantiation, Trump and his press secretary repeated and embellished Musk's claim. Musk has even used this unsubstantiated story to support the idea of shuttering USAID. While debates regarding government spending on specific programs are valid, the push to cut entire agencies based on unverified information raises concerns about transparency and the potential impact on essential services. Congressional Republicans are revisiting a risky strategy as they aim to extend Trump-era tax cuts. Under pressure from conservatives, the GOP plans to tie these extensions to significant federal spending cuts. This approach mirrors the tactics used in the 1990s, which led to a major political defeat for the party during a budget battle with President Clinton. Back then, linking tax cuts to spending cuts backfired when Clinton successfully argued that Republicans favored the wealthy at the expense of middle and working-class families. Unlike in 1995, a presidential veto isn't expected. However, Democrats are already employing a similar line of attack, arguing the proposed cuts disproportionately harm popular programs benefiting average Americans, such as Medicaid, while favoring the wealthy with tax breaks. The GOP faces the challenge of convincing voters that these spending cuts are necessary and won't negatively impact essential services, or they risk repeating the mistakes of the past. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, now overseeing USAID, faces scrutiny over his dramatically changed stance on the agency. CNN reports Rubio, previously a staunch advocate for USAID and foreign aid during his Senate tenure, is now criticizing it as a global charity. This shift comes as the Trump administration seeks to dismantle the agency, even entertaining the idea of shutting it down. Rubio's past support, including a 2017 tweet defending foreign aid as crucial to national security, starkly contrasts his recent remarks. He previously championed USAID as a vital tool against China's growing influence, a point he now dismisses. Records show that Rubio has consistently defended the agency's role and budget. The reversal raises questions about the motivations behind Rubio's current assessment of USAID, particularly given his history of supporting its mission and defending it in Congress. Critics argue that the change in tone aligns with the current administration's broader efforts to reduce foreign aid and reshape U.S. foreign policy. Good evening. Former President Donald Trump has made controversial statements regarding the conflict in Ukraine, drawing criticism for seemingly echoing Russian narratives. Trump falsely accused Ukraine of starting the war and questioned President Zelensky's legitimacy, stating Ukraine needs to hold an election. These comments come after the U.S.-Russia talks in Saudi Arabia, where Ukraine was excluded, fueling concerns that Trump might push for a peace deal favoring Russia. Trump cited President Zelensky's approval rating, which according to him, is currently at 4%. His remarks directly contradict assurances from his own administration that any agreement would be fair. Critics point out the irony of Trump's call for Ukrainian elections. Given his own challenges to the 2020 U.S. election results and Putin's history of manipulating elections in Russia, Trump defended his statements, insisting they were his own and not influenced by Russia. The Ukrainian constitution prohibits elections during wartime, a stance supported by Zelensky. Trump's statements are being viewed as a move to influence public opinion and further his political goals. In a significant development, the United States and Russia have agreed to establish high-level teams for negotiations aimed at ending the war in Ukraine. The talks, held in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, marked the first face-to-face meeting between top U.S. and Russian officials since the full-scale invasion began. Secretary of State Marco Rubio emphasized that concessions from all parties will be necessary to achieve peace. The U.S. delegation, including Rubio, Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff, and National Security Advisor Mike Waltz, indicated that these discussions are the start of a series of engagements. National Security Advisor Mike Waltz suggested territorial concessions and security guarantees would be fundamental to any agreement. The exclusion of Ukraine from these initial talks has drawn criticism, with President Trump questioning President Zelensky's stance. Russia has previously demanded territorial concessions and the abandonment of NATO aspirations from Ukraine, conditions Kyiv has previously rejected. The international community is closely watching as these negotiations unfold, hoping they will pave the way for a resolution to the ongoing conflict. Good evening. Former President Donald Trump has made controversial statements regarding the conflict in Ukraine, drawing criticism for seemingly echoing Russian narratives. Trump falsely accused Ukraine of starting the war and questioned President Zelensky's legitimacy, stating Ukraine needs to hold an election. These comments come after the U.S.-Russia talks in Saudi Arabia, where Ukraine was excluded, fueling concerns that Trump might push for a peace deal favoring Russia. Trump cited President Zelensky's approval rating, which according to him, is currently at 4%. His remarks directly contradict assurances from his own administration that any agreement would be fair. Critics point out the irony of Trump's call for Ukrainian elections. Given his own challenges to the 2020 U.S. election results and Putin's history of manipulating elections in Russia, Trump defended his statements, insisting they were his own and not influenced by Russia. The Ukrainian constitution prohibits elections during wartime, a stance supported by Zelensky. Trump's statements are being viewed as a move to influence public opinion and further his political goals. European leaders convened an emergency meeting in Paris following the Trump administration's decision to exclude them from upcoming U.S.-Russia negotiations regarding the war in Ukraine. French President Emmanuel Macron hosted the gathering, aiming to unify European strategy on the critical issue of security in the region. Leaders from Germany, the UK, Italy, Poland, Spain, the Netherlands, Denmark, and the European Union, along with NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, attended the meeting, seeking a coordinated response to the evolving situation. The U.S. is scheduled to meet with Russian officials in Saudi Arabia, leaving Ukraine's President Zelensky out of the discussions. Zelensky has voiced strong opposition to any agreements made without Ukraine's direct involvement. This exclusion has fueled concerns among European leaders that the U.S. might be pursuing a peace deal that could compromise